Welcome to the Bengals NFL show. I'm your host, Braden Guthrie, and wow. So much has happened since the last episode. Jessie Bates and the Bengals not able to get a deal done. Paul Brown Stadium is getting a new name. The Ring of Honor class for 2022 has been announced, and some very questionable Madden ratings. That's all going to be discussed on today's episode. So with that being said, let's get into it. Alright, so we are going to start off with the Jessie Bates news, which is kind of old news by now, but the Bengals and Jessie Bates were not able to reach a contract agreement by July 15th. By the time you're viewing this, that is obviously obvious by now. And there's been a lot of mixed reactions upon Who Dey Nation. And I want to talk about the why this didn't happen, kind of give more insight, because it's just not as simple as, oh, too much guaranteed money, or, oh, the Bengals don't want to pay a player at an undervalued position, or, oh, it has to do with the contracts the Bengals are giving these next few years to Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins. So with that being said, the news is that the Bengals wanted to get Jessie Bates a contract for 5 years. And where the conversation starts was, in that contract, the Bengals would have offered $17 million guaranteed over the 5-year contract. And just to give some hindsight on why there's so many people talking about the subject was, Minkah Fitzpatrick got basically twice that guaranteed money in his recent contract extension with the Pittsburgh Steelers. There's been talk the Bengals lowballed Jessie Bates with that guaranteed money. I'm not sure lowball is the right term, but there is some legitimacy behind that. But it's just not as simple as the Bengals didn't want to pay, and I'll further talk about that here in a minute. And also, it's just not about the Bengals. You're like, oh, we drafted Dax Hill, now we don't need Jessie Bates at all. That is definitely not it. There is certainly, like, the selection of Dax and Hill did play a part. But it's not like the Bengals picked Dax Hill and immediately thought, well, we're done with Jessie Bates. So, obviously, one of the big arguments in this is the conversation of Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins. T. Higgins going into year 3, the Bengals will want to get a deal done before his contract runs out. So, it should be believed that the Bengals will start contract extension talks with T. Higgins after this upcoming season. And we've seen the wide receiver market. Christian Kirk and the Jacksonville Jaguars, really screwed the wide receiver market. Christian Kirk, who with respect to him is not really a top wide receiver threat. You can argue he shouldn't be a wide receiver 1. And yet he's getting paid over $20 million. Wide receivers see that, and they're going to be like, yeah, Christian Kirk just got this amount of money, and I am significantly better than that. And Jamar Chase, T. Higgins are both better than Christian Kirk's. So that does play a part. The Bengals see this wide receiver market. They're like, okay, we're going to need to give guaranteed money to T. Higgins, and in a few years, Jamar Chase. While we may have the money to pay Jessie Bates up front, we're going to have to pay these other guys. And then I think the Bengals also want to have some cash laying around for another unexpected free agency market boost for the wide receivers, because, as we said, Christian Kirk's got that extension this year. Well, not extension, his free agent signing this year, so who knows what the wide receiver market will be this next year before T. Higgins does hit free agency. I'm sure everybody in the NFL is expecting some crazy signings next free agency, and the Bengals want to monitor that. They want to have extra cash lying around. There's no doubt about that. And it is also believed that after this season, along with T. Higgins, Bengals will start extension talks with Joe Burrow. Now, obviously, the Bengals, when it comes time, will pick up Joe Burrow's 5th-year option, as they will with Jamar Chase as well. So they have a little more time to figure out the contracts with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase compared to T. Higgins. However, the Bengals, I'm sure, have started the contract with T. Higgins, if not negotiations, probably the language of it and all that. So, yeah, the Bengals cash how they have, they're not as rich as like the Los Angeles Rams or Kansas City Chiefs, where they have a lot more guaranteed money. Now, I do legitimately believe that if the Bengals really wanted to get that deal done, they would have had the money with Jessie Bates. They could have given that to him. They could have given that money up front and still be prepared for T. Higgins, Joe Burrow, and Jamar Chase, despite not having as much money as LA. And the stadium change will help in that regards. I'll talk about that in a minute and how this kind of compares and interacts with each other. So yeah, what I like to call the three-headed monster with Joe Burrow, T. Higgins, and Jamar Chase absolutely did play a part, but it's just not like the Bengals saw that and were like, man, we need to pay them, so screw you, Jessie Bates. No, that may be a small part, but that's not the whole part. Another argument to why the Bengals didn't get a deal done with Jessie Bates is the 31st overall pick in the NFL draft, Daxton Hill, the safety out of the horrible college of University of Michigan. And I honestly think there's less legitimacy of this argument compared to the three-headed monster. And it's a mixture between where Jessie Bates ranks in the league, just that's not a smart strategy for the NFL draft, and a few more. And just kind of start with the not being smart to draft like that was when the Bengals drafted Daxton Hill, the Bengals got really great value because while the national media and the actual NFL front offices don't really see eye to eye, many people consider Daxton Hill to be a top 20 talent in this last draft. So the Bengals saw that, and as we know, Lou Anarumo loves playmakers. He loves to have versatile players on his defense, and Daxton Hill does that. He's a playmaker. He can play multiple positions, outside corner, slot corner, both safety positions, one high, two high. If he needs to play in the box, he can play in the box. So when it came to the draft, the Bengals were probably seeing, well, this Daxton Hill guy is pretty damn good. Obviously, we have a situation with Jessie Bates. Not only is he the best player available, he could also help with future team need. And the Bengals, when they made that selection, they were not like, oh, we need a safety because of this whole Jessie Bates situation, so we're taking the next best safety. And that's just not a smart strategy and something the Bengals used to do, and a reason why for a while they couldn't take those steps. They tried to draft replacements for their free agents instead of taking the best player available. And in this instance, it kind of felt right for the Bengals because obviously without getting a deal done with Jessie Bates, they will need a new safety, and Daxton Hill, especially with his versatility, will be that new player. However, like I said, the Bengals weren't doing that just because they needed a safety. As I said, very versatile, best player available. Lou Anarumo loves his versatility. And the rest of the draft, we saw the Bengals draft Cam Taylor-Britt. We saw the Bengals draft Tyson Anderson. 3 defensive backs. So clearly the Bengals were bulking up on the defensive side and in the secondary. Now, to say that Daxton Hill draft pick had zero implications for Jessie Bates is also an immature argument because even though the Bengals took him to be, because he was the best player available, there was certainly conversation to be like, okay, if this Jessie Bates contract situation doesn't work out, we now have a replacement that we feel very high on. But regardless, when the Bengals drafted Daxton Hill, they weren't like, well, we drafted our future replacement, let's stop talking to Jessie Bates. No, absolutely not. Like I said, did that play a part? Yes. Is that the whole reason? No. So as you can see, there's a lot of different whys of why the Bengals didn't re-sign Jessie Bates. And that's also kind of going back to the first argument of Bengals not exactly being the richest team in the NFL. That's what brings us to the second point of the Bengals wanting to find a promotion, a company to replace Paul Brown Stadium. And we're going to get into that right now. As hinted at when we were talking about Jessie Bates, Paul Brown Stadium is no more. Now, obviously, they're not tearing down Paul Brown Stadium. They're just changing the name, and they're going to try and find a company to sponsor it, rename the stadium after them. And while Some may be sad that Paul Brown Stadium will no longer be the name. This is just a great business move by Elizabeth Blackburn and just helping the Bengals be more of a modernized team. And I mean, you see it all across the NFL for the longest time ever. Steelers Stadium was Heinz Field. Now, obviously, they just changed it to a worse name. I'm not going to try and pronounce a new company. I'm sure it's easy, but I'm not going to try. And you see stuff like that. And for the Pittsburgh Steelers, like, they're also, much like the Bengals, not a high market team. They make less cash up front compared to the Chiefs and the Rams and the Chargers. So how these more small market teams, I know that's a term more in baseball, but also works in football, get that extra cash, it's by working with these companies and the sponsorships. And that certainly will help. Now, I don't think the Bengals just started doing this because of Jessie Bates' situation. No, absolutely not. This is a move by Katie Blackburn to help modernize the Bengals. And now, what the new stadium will be called, I generally have no idea. Like a lot of people, including myself, would love the name of Skyline Stadium. Skyline is absolutely amazing. I want to eat it as much as I can. But in reality, that's probably not the name because the Bengals will probably be looking for a big company. And some of the names I've seen thrown out, nothing official, just more rumors or people speculating, is Kroger's or PNC. Companies like that are what the Bengals are looking for. Bigger corporate company that can offer more revenue, more business. And that's what the Bengals are going to be looking for. So it probably won't be Skyline, or for some of you big weirdos out there who prefer Gold Star, it's probably not going to be that. That's no guarantee. Just that's the way I look at it. And it does make more business sense for the Bengals for wanting to go with companies like PNC or Kroger's. So what the new stadium name will be, no idea as of now. We will hopefully know in the coming weeks, and I'd imagine the Bengals will get that name done before preseason starts. May hear that in the middle of training camp, so who knows. But yeah, as I said, Paul Brown Stadium is no more. The new business and who they work with will help the Bengals bring in more revenue, which obviously can help the Bengals earn more cash to help with guarantees. And also, the main thing that's being reported, they also want the extra money, the extra revenue to help fix the stadium, modernize it, make adjustments, fix some stuff, which, I mean, makes obvious sense. It can attract more people, even though the better the Bengals are, they'll sell out stadiums. Look at towards the end of last season and against the Raiders in the wild card. But it makes the experience better, and the Bengals do value that, and it's not like they're going to spend all their revenue readjusting the stadium. That will help them, even if it's a small amount, will help them re-sign players. And maybe it doesn't help them give much higher guarantees to Joe Burrow, T. Higgins, and Jamar Chase, but it could help on one of those other free agents where they're not going to break the market, but they certainly won't be cheap. For example, guys like Jonah Williams, Jermaine Pratt, they're going to not get a major payday. They're not going to reset the market, but they're certainly not going to be making the league minimum. So there's a fine line, and a deal with this can really help the Bengals spend that money for free agents and not having to worry about losing that money they just paid to these, I don't want to say average, but underrated, undervalued guys that the Bengals will likely value more compared to other teams. This will help them readjust, have them not lose money, and still be able to give big contracts to the three-headed monster. To see how this exactly play out will be obviously a future conversation. So hopefully, like I said, this will help the Bengals bring more upfront cash and also redo the stadium, make it a little nicer. So with that being said, there's not much more to speculate about the Bengals stadium. There's still some time. So, like I said, we're going to have to see how that plays out. And next, Madden does it again. Some very, very questionable Madden ratings. And you know, every year I expect nothing from Madden. I expect nothing from EA. I know they're going to disappoint me. And despite those thoughts, they disappoint me. For example, Jamar Chase is only an 87 overall. He's not ranked in the top 10 of wide receivers. Guys like Brandon Cooks and Adam Thielen are ahead of him. And it just seems like Madden has a bias for rookies and second-year players. Now, for rookies, I can somewhat understand, but for second-year players, it's dumb. And a lot of Madden's logic behind it is, well, these are second-year players not proven. Does it matter? I mean, tell me what NFL team is not taking Jamar Chase because he's not proven going his second year. No, he already proves he's a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL, and it's dumb to even talk about these Madden ratings, but for some of the more, dare I say, casual fans or more video game players, these ratings are misleading. There's a reason why, as well, so many Madden players also readjust the ratings on their own. There are 2 Madden ratings that I don't disagree with. That is Joe Mixon as a 93 overall and Joe Burrow as a 90th overall. And Joe Burrow is the 5th ranked quarterback in Madden. So it's really cool to see Madden show a lot of respect to Joe Burrow, especially after this last season. They have him higher than Justin Herbert at 88, but they also interestingly have Derek Carr at number 6, ahead of Justin Herbert, obviously, and I find that a little weird. All due respect to Derek Carr, I love Derek Carr and thought he's underrated in general terms. In Madden terms, I guess he's overrated, but how's he 6? I mean, come on, he's not better than Justin Herbert. That being said, though, I will take Joe Burrow's ranking, and these are 2 ratings that Madden got right, so I'm happy about that. But you know what they say, a broken clock's right twice a day. Another rating that is also weird that I agreed but also disagreed with was Evan McPherson's rating. Now, McPherson's only rated as an 83 overall. However, that's also the 3rd highest rating for a kicker in Madden. So I guess Madden just has a bias against kickers. Obviously, Justin Tucker's number 1. So it's really hard to say my exact thoughts on that one because on one hand, it seems like a low rating, but on the other hand, Madden thinks he's a top 3 kicker. And also why I'm talking about this so much and getting mad or happy about it, I don't care because Madden's absolutely terrible. But yet I'll still play it every year. I'll still buy it. And I'm not proud of that. I'm not happy about that. But yet here I am playing it. And also just some other ratings I found interesting. Both as well as Jamar Chase. Lil Collins is also an 87 overall. And also Tyler Boyd's an 84 overall, which is a tad low, but I can understand it. But T. Higgins is only an 83 overall. So it just seems like Madden does not like the Bengals wide receivers. So that being said, enough Madden talk. Screw that game. Let's get into the Bengals reign of 2022 Ring of Honor. Before we get into the Ring of Honor, I just want to say if you are still watching this video, thank you so much. A bit of a longer episode than usual, but a lot to cover from these past week and a half. And the final subject we'll be going into, as I hinted at, is the Bengals 2022 Ring of Honor class. The 2 people who were voted upon by Bengals season ticket holders were Isaac Curtis, wide receiver for the Bengals, and Willie Anderson, who played both left tackle and right tackle for the Bengals. Now, Isaac Curtis was before my time by a good amount. He played his entire career with the Bengals, 12 yards, 7,101 yards, 53 touchdowns. He was an all-pro, first-class, Pro Bowler. So I was unfortunately never been alive to see him play, but I've heard great stuff. I've seen some of his highlights, so to see him be nominated and voted into the Ring of Honor is amazing. And the next person who was voted in, a future Hall of Famer, I hope this bias against the Bengals stops, was Willie Anderson. He spent 13 years in the NFL, 12 of them with the Bengals. In 2008, in his final years, he played with the Baltimore Ravens. And Willie Anderson's just fantastic. In just 13 seasons, he gave up 16 sacks. That is just over a sack per year. Imagine if the Bengals had that currently. Like, the Bengals had some really great offensive line early in this century. Willie Anderson Andrew Whitworth, and we miss having those. But Willie Anderson absolutely deserves to be in the Ring of Honor. And that one stat I just said a minute ago, I mean, that is just absolutely crazy. And much like Isaac Curtis, Pro Bowler, first team All-Pro. And there's not much to say other than these two deserve it. These two, especially Willie Anderson, deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. So hopefully we'll get to that point, and I do think Bengals implementing a Ring of Honor will help these guys like Willie Anderson, Isaac Curtis, grab more attention nationally, and that could also help their chances at getting to the Hall of Fame, because Hall of Fame is decently political. That's just how it is. So hopefully that can go forward to helping them get into Hall of Fame at the very least. The Bengals are recognizing two of their greatest players in franchise history, and that is always so well deserved. That being said, guys, thank you so much for watching. Like I said, I know this was a longer video. I appreciate you guys watching the whole video. It really means a lot to me. So if you did, comment below. Let me know if you watched the whole video, and I might have a little something for you. That being said, like I said, thank you guys so much for watching. Like, comment, share, subscribe. That helps me tremendously. That being said, Houday, and with training camp right around the corner, hopefully we'll be getting more news and more videos. Houday.